Hi, I'm Ashley Smith, and I'm going to do an experiment to see what will sink and what will float. So on the table, I have certain items that I have listed up here on the board. Each one of these items I'm going to test in the water to see if it will sink or if it will float. So before I put any of the items in the water, I'm going to think if I will predict it will either sink or float. So right here, I have a prediction column, and I will write if I think it's going to sink or float right here. And then after I find out if it sinks or floats, I will do a check or a cross in either the sink or the float column. That way I can see if I was right or if I was wrong. So the first things I'm going to test are pennies. There's 3 pennies. They should all do the same thing. I think that the pennies are going to sink. I think they're going to sink because even though they're small, they're kind of heavy for their weight, so they sunk. So, sink for pennies. Next on the list, I have toothpicks. I have 3 toothpicks again. Really, I could just do 1, but I'm going to try all 3. They're really light, so I think these are going to float. Oh, as you can see, they're floating. And I did say I thought they would float, and I was right. I was right, they did float. Next are seashells. There are 2 different seashells, but I think seashells are going to sink, kind of like the pennies. So I'll do one at a time. Let's do this one first. That went right to the bottom. I saw some bubbles coming up because that one has a hole on the inside. And then this one I think will also sink. It did. And that one I saw bubbles coming up too. So they did sink. Next, I have this little octopus toy. It's kind of light, and I know it's made out of plastic, but I don't know if it will sink or float. I think it will float. So my prediction is it will float. Let's see what he does. Oh, he actually sunk. Next, I have flower petals. Oops. These are very, very light. I actually think these flower petals will float like the toothpicks. So let's see. Oh, I forgot to write my prediction. Float. And they did. They're floating. Next, I'm going to take some of these out of the top. Next I have just a normal spoon. The spoon is pretty heavy. I think it's going to sink. My prediction is it will sink. Let's see what it does. Yep, that sunk right away. So now I'm going to take the spoon out. The last 2 on the list are the orange and a peeled orange. So first, I'm just going to test out this orange with the peel on. It's pretty heavy, so I think it's going to sink. So my prediction is the orange will sink. Let's see what it does. Well, look. It's actually floating. That's crazy. I wonder why the orange is floating when it feels heavier than the spoon. That's strange. So it's actually floating. So now, if I think about this, if the orange floated with the peel on, I wonder if it will be the same or different when it's peeled. So I'm going to peel this really quick. I think the weight's not really changing. I have a feeling I think it might still float. So let's see. If it floated before, then why wouldn't it now? So let's see how this works. My prediction is it will float still. Okay, let's see what happens. Well, it went down at first. At first it went all the way down and then it came back up. So the orange is still floating, even with the peel off. So now I can look at my data and analyze it and see that I was right there. I predicted right with the toothpicks. I predicted correctly with the seashells. The octopus, I was wrong. I thought the octopus would float, and it actually sank. Flower petals floated. Spoon sank, I was right. And then with the orange, I predicted the orange would sink with the peel on, and it actually floated. And after that, I thought, well, if it floated with the peel, it would probably float without the peel. And it looks like it is. So now I'm wondering, if the orange sat in this water for an hour or a whole day, would it still be floating? Or would it eventually sink? I'm not really sure. So maybe that could be an extension to this experiment to see what would happen. So, thank you for watching.